Alright, you already like read the thumbnail. Uh, I want to go and like explain everything really quickly because it's probably gonna take a very long time to draw every single example like this. So while I'm talking, I'm just gonna like draw what everything does. Okay. So basically, in the story that I'm making right now, where it's all just basically like this people with like magic and stuff. They the mechanic of like everything is completely different from any fantasy world magic. Okay, uh, there's two types of magic that people can use. Okay, there's the sorcery and there's magic. Okay, magic is based on imagination. So basically, anything that you can think of will probably be able to be happening using magic. Okay, but it's not 100% possible to do everything with magic. Okay, it's really complex, and you need to understand how like science works to do this. Okay, so it's kind of more like science than imagination, but still. Meanwhile, sorcery is basically just using like scripting, coding, and stuff. So like you can basically create something like a one by one block, or like a cinder block, or basically like a wall out of thin air by thinking of the location, and then like basically like you're the center, and you can basically see or like imagine uh, X, Y, and Z and like stuff, like this. I can't really explain it, but you get the point, okay? X, Y, and Z, basically the position where you can face it, up, forward, and sideways, okay? But anyways, that sorcery is not the point of this video right now. I'm just giving an example as quick as possible because I need to do everything in 15 minutes. So basically, like every person basically has mana, but the only problem is that uh, they are kind of confusing to basically understand. Okay, this is an example of how a mana is flowing through a person's body. I know it's really bad, okay, but just trust me, okay. So basically, every single part of the body that human has is to have these things, okay. And these are basically called mana flow, or basically like mana pipe system that is around of your body. Okay, they basically work by basically just flow around your body. These are basically just like energy. Okay, pure energy. They're not liquid. They're not gas. They're not like solid object. They're basically just like energy. It's hard to explain, but just imagine like a gas that just something like an invisible spiritual, or like basically like a flowing spirit, or basically a flowing smoke that can be controlled and manipulated using the mind. Okay, so basically here's how it works. Okay, uh, in the middle, or basically the stomach, any consumption like water and food can basically refresh the mana flow. Okay, or basically fill the mana that has been released. The mana can be released onto the hand, or basically the legs, okay, which is important for like everything else. Okay, I'm gonna explain it really quickly, but right now I'm gonna explain only one element, okay, which is the title. Okay, the most simplest one that I can explain is basically like water and earth, and it's very notable reason why. Okay, first of all, water is basically a pure imagination. Okay, what you expected from water is that it can be shaped by any means necessary. It can be a circle, it can be any type of object that you can imagine. Okay, so an example is that you can create water to be shapes like these. Okay, I know it's really shitty, but it's basically how it's working. Okay, and also I just want to let you guys know, it's basically like hold on, let me focus it. It's 4:50 right now, and I need to be quiet. But at the same time, I want to explain everything very fast. I got distracted. I got playtime, but then like I want to make this story, but I forgot about it. Okay, so basically like mana flows through your body, hands and palms and feet and legs and stuff, and these energy basically like works as key. Okay, they basically can be focused onto this direction of energy, but this is not key, this is not Dragon Ball. Okay, these energy can transform into four different elements that is in science. I forgot about it. Okay, so basically like hold on, shit, hold on. So basically like this. Okay, they can transform into any of these wait, hold on, I think I fucked something up. Okay, hold on. Oh, hold on. Shit, hold on. Fuck. So basically, like, damn it. Uh huh. So basically, how these energy works is that they need to transform into gas and then liquid and then solid object. Okay, but this can go backward and forward. Okay, but the main one is basically the sin circle one. Okay, this gas type. Okay, the energy needs to be processed throughout the body to basically just like work. Okay, so basically how it works is that the energy needs a form first. Okay, but they cannot transform into like liquid or solid at the first. Okay, they need to basically need into gas. Okay, because it's the most simplest that they can basically transform at the form of energy. Okay, because like these energy needs to like be processed before getting released. So like yeah, but anyways, what I'm saying is that the water element is basically the simplest because it's basically pure imagination. But here's the thing, okay? It's kind of complicated when you understand it, okay? So basically, energy is basically an invisible being, or basically an invisible energy, okay? These energy basically are mana, okay? Energy, mana, same thing, okay? But the difference is that these energy needs to take a form or basically be concentrated into an object. So basically, for example, okay, if there is mana onto a floor that is somebody standing on, okay, it's gonna be really shitty. Okay, it looks like this. Okay, so basically somebody standing on a wall or a brick or something like that. Okay, any solid object that they're standing on, or any solid thing, object they can stand or basically touch or interact, they can manipulate it by releasing mana through their fingers, feet, or basically toes, anything. I don't really know. Okay, I need to do this fast. Okay, I need to specifically, I can explain it really fast, but basically the main area where it can be exited is basically throughout the mouth, fingers, hand, feet and toes. And like I didn't really think much about it, but just hear me out. Okay, this is basically how basically every fiction works, if I have to explain it in a single fucking video. Okay, so basically like the energy can basically be put into a solid object. Okay, this is just an example of how mana works on a solid object, or basically like earth element of magic. Okay, when a mana enters through a solid object, it basically turns into a gas, liquid. Okay, and then liquid goes into the ground, and then it spreads around. Okay, when it is in the ground, it can basically be moved by just thinking about it. Okay, when you think about that water moving around throughout the world, okay, throughout the floor, it basically makes it so that the person that is standing can basically manipulate it using their brain. So like just for example, they basically can create it something like this. Okay, so for example, this is basically how magic works. Now the only problem is that it requires brain power, that you can basically make something out of nothing. Okay, so basically like these energy can be used to neither enchant the body part, basically muscles can be increased, can be stronger using magic, because it basically makes it so that energy flows through the muscle and expanded it. Okay, energy basically expand everything that it has, okay? So like for example, gas expand and then turn into liquid, and this liquid can be compressed into basically like solid object. And shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, okay? So basically like that's how I'm gonna explain how these mana works, okay? Now we're going to talk about how water works, okay? So like basically when these mana turn into gas, they can be released throughout the hands and can be turned into a water ball, or basically like an orb, just like this, okay? And the part where it's special is that the water element is simple because it can be charged, okay? So for example, if the water is basically like in the palm of the hand of the person, and this person can basically like hold it in, so basically like this, the person basically creates gas that is at the palm of their hand. When they created the water ball, it will stay input unless it got projected, okay? So basically the water is concentrated into a single area of basically everything, okay? So basically at the palm of my hand, in this very distance, okay, there's gonna be water coming out of my palm and created into like this ball of liquid that stays there. As long as I think it will stays there, okay? I cannot move it unless I created more mana to be exited. So basically once those mana exited, they need to be concentrated very very small and then basically released into a single direction. So basically if there's air coming out of my hand and then release toward that direction really fucking fast, it will send the water flying, okay? So basically how it works is that just in a simple drawing it looks like this, okay? So like yeah, but at the same time the water can be shaped, okay? The water in the palm of your hand can be shaped by using your mind or using your own fucking hand, okay? But it's faster using hand instead of using your motherfucking mind, okay? Instead of that, you basically can make it so that water, okay, can be poked through to create a hole to basically like this, okay? So for example, when you created the water ball, it can basically be poked to create a shape, okay? The water ball can also be like shaped around by using your hands. So basically these mana turn into gas, turn into liquid, and they can be changed by using your own hand or using your brain, because it's very complicated to change the shape using your brain, because you need to understand or think really really hard to basically shape it, okay? You can basically turn it into a spear, you can basically turn it into a stick, you can basically turn it into a wall, you can basically turn it into a ball, you can turn it into a disc, you can even turn it into a donut, okay? A donut that can be squeezed makes it so that it's better, okay? So for example, the complicated shape depending on your imagination, okay? But if you want a disc with minimal amount of energy, you need to first create a water ball, a ball. Just imagine a spear in my hand, okay? And then like squeeze it, okay? You squeeze the water and then turn it into a dough that's just flattened. So basically like that dough will basically be poked in the middle, and then it turns into a disc. Squeeze it even more, it turns into a sharp object, okay? And then you need to use wind element to spin it around, and then once that's done, made a concentrated area, okay? So basically like flip it, and then like once that happens, you need to put a concentrated air or basically gas that release the disc forward. And not only that, you can also use it as a frisbee. So basically like imagine I'm holding a disc and then I can toss it, okay? Because it's made out of my mana, I can control it using like my fingers, okay? But another way to do it is that using the mind, okay? So imagine this, you decided to toss the disc forward, and like using my brain, there's basically like wind that is actually stuck on that area. Because it's energy, fuck, we're out of time. I cannot explain it anymore, but just think about it like this, okay? Sorry for a quick rush. I'll continue it in the next video. Bye.